Eat it.
May have entered through the ventilation system which runs throughout the building. Security guards.
Hey everybody, welcome to MovieStrange number 22. Wow, we're doing a lot of these. Drew, how are you?
You sure are. One a week. I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're cranking through them. I'm doing okay. Can't wait to talk about this film because it's weird and wonderful and crazy. And by the way, here's the word from last week, the words. It's funny, after I see these words, because when I read them, they don't mean anything. And obviously, okay, the movie makes sense once you see the words after seeing the movie.
I hope so.
Shut up. I'm just going to be quiet. But yes, family, demon, destiny, cute.
What do you mean you're going to be quiet? What are you going to be quiet about?
I'll be quiet about being, I'm stating the obvious is my point. Obviously.
Well, that happens.
That's what happens. All right, so let me shut that off. Come over here. Okay. The movie that I picked is called Bad Milo. And, of course, it's one of Drew's two films. Drew?
So, Bad Milo, which is sometimes the title is Bad Milo, and sometimes the title is Bad Milo with an exclamation point, like there on the cover of that magnet release and on some of the posters. I would describe this movie as absurd, gross, and very relatable.
It's almost like a grandchild or a niece or a nephew of the film we did a little while ago called Basket Case.
Absolutely, it's a descendant of that.
It's definitely
and we'll
a descendant
talk about
of that. Okay, before we go any further, I got to put this up because we got to talk about this film. So we're going to spoil it a little bit because it's a fairly recent film, I think.
Yeah, it's from 2013.
Okay, well, that's not... Okay, that's been around a while.
Well, look, I mean, the premise of the film, which they don't hide in the trailer, it sounds like a spoiler because when you watch the movie, the guy played by Ken Marino, who his name is Hayslip, which is for Duncan Hayslip. He has terrible stomach aches that is exacerbated by stress. And so in the first part of the movie, you discover what that actually is that's happening, and they show you the ultrasound. But the premise of the movie is what Toby Huss, who we just saw in The Invitation as a cult leader, he plays the
doctor.
Dr. Yeager, who tells him, you got a thing in your butt. That's what the movie is about. Ken Marino has a thing in his butt that comes out and does murderous things. And if that premise doesn't appeal to you, I get that. But this is one of those movies that it knows what it wants to do, and it goes all out. And it's really entertaining. And it's really kind of smart. What did you think? What was your
therapist, Peter, what's his name? How do you pronounce that guy's name? I love that actor.
Peter Stormare. Of Fargo and many other excellent
many things. He plays the devil in Constantine. He's just great. I just love his
He's a great actor. He really
brings
his own thing to it.
In this film, it's a metaphor. Okay? I get it. But it's a metaphor that's alive and crawling around the floor and eating people. But yeah, like you were saying earlier, it's all about therapy manifesting as, not therapy, but he's learning in therapy that his anger is manifesting in this little creature. And actually, it's a family trait, which I thought was the most, the nice twist on this. Yeah. It surprised me it surprised me. I didn't see that coming at all. Even
that's
until
the thing. The movie is literalize a word, it'll be now. The movie literalizes the idea of what happens when you hold on to your emotions and you push them down and you don't deal with them and they eat away at you, or they literally eat away at you, or they eat away at other people. In this case, when his stomach gets really, really upset, because again, he doesn't know at the beginning that he's got this creature which he names Milo. Up his butt. Milo goes after people who have wronged him. So the first victim of Milo is a guy who seems otherwise be innocent, but he's deleted some important stuff from Duncan's computer, to which Duncan immediately, anytime Duncan gets really upset, you immediately hear his stomach growling and farting, and he clutches it and he looks more miserable, except now a creature comes out, which at first he doesn't know is happening because he passes out.
Right.
Which is probably the best way to have giant monsters go in and out of your butt.
The good news, everybody, is you don't see any of this.
Right. There's no butthole in the movie.
No.
But I will say, and we'll talk about Basket Case. a little bit later, but I give the movie credit for the decision it makes to portray Milo, which is a puppet.
Yeah.
And there's certainly some CGI enhancements and things like that, but it's a puppet, and they don't
That's
pretend that it's his blinks, and they don't pretend that it's not a puppet.
No.
There's some moves that the creature like jumps through the air and stuff, and it's all judicious editing and camera choices. But you're not pretending that it's not a real thing, because it is a metaphor. It is a depiction of a real thing, because feelings and pain are real things.
Well,
but
in
they
the
don't
context of
usually
the film,
have teeth.
but in the context of the film, it's a real thing.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Which
It's
is
not-
why it's hard for Ken Marino to get his head around.
Yeah,
what
he's not
his
imagining
ass
it. This thing is actually
in-
crawling out of
yeah.
his butt and going and killing people.
Well, I like how he goes to therapy to try to figure out what's going on with him, because the first person who also discovers that something is up there is the therapist, who sees it come out and run away.
It attacks him.
To what?
It bites the therapist.
Right, it bites the therapist. And when the therapist, because he's not just a therapist, he's also a hypnotherapist.
Right,
he has
He's
a
nuts.
parrot that breaks patient doctor confidentiality and also criticizes him, which sounds like too much. It's a very sparingly used joke, but it's pretty funny.
It's good.
And he has as I assume as doctors would, he has an ancient book full of myths, and he pulls it out, and I won't do an impression of him, but he has this line I wrote down. He goes, because he's trying to figure out what's going on in his patient's butt, and he says, "There is an ancient myth surrounding the anus. There it is. Look at this. The myth of our anus." And the myth is that there's a monster up there who's your feelings.
Right.
I mean, that's
that's
a very
kinda
real
dropped the ball
feeling
a little
in
bit.
that
This
sense.
guy Ken Marino, Duncan, what's his last name?
Duncan Hayslip, which we'll talk about what that name means in a minute.
He's like an accountant at a company, and right from the beginning, the guy is stressed out, and he ends up that scene that they show of his partner getting murdered. They move him into a bathroom as the office, because it turns out he's working for Pat, the guy from
Patrick
Seinfeld.
Warburton plays his slimy boss. Yep.
Sneaky boss. And the guy's stressed from the beginning. Then they have this dinner with his mother, Mary Kay Place. I'm sorry, I forget the guy playing her husband. Fabulous
Her husband
actor.
is a much younger Kumail Nanjiani, who's very
much
funny.
younger. And they're
But
just
he's much younger.
he's completely talking sex in front of her son.
Yep.
And then they bring another guy in,
Back
fertility
up
doctor.
1 second. A lot of the stuff that Duncan is finding stressful, that Ken Marino's character is finding stressful, the animal in the butt part is not the most directly relatable thing, I think, for most people.
Right.
But everything that he's suffering, being put into uncomfortable positions at work, in terms of being made to fire people, in terms of being asked to do things that are questionable or clearly illegal. Right. He can't get his wife pregnant. He's worried about his own health. He's disturbed by his mother's very young husband, who wants him to call him daddy, even though he's the same age or younger. And as you were saying, one of the things that his mother does, because this is a thing that parents sometimes do when they're, let's say, a little intrusive with their adult children, she brings a fertility doctor to be a guest at dinner, which is how we as the audience find out that they've been having some problems getting pregnant, or at least the mother has an impression that they've been having trouble. And the actor who plays that doctor is Steve Zissis.
Yeah,
now, his name is either Dr. Yip, or after the doctor suffers a fate, which we can also talk about, and if you really want to get into spoilers and genital trauma, he's on the news crawl, he's identified as Dr. Tip. And since his penis gets bitten off by Milo,
and because everybody thinks a rabid raccoon is attacking everybody,
right?
Now, my point about Duncan is he's stressed from the beginning, and he's had these stomach issues for a while. As his wife says, he's in the bathroom all the time, like an hour and a half, 90 minutes, not in a row. He's saying, so he's had some issues, and then goes in and does that sonogram, and he goes, "You got something in your butt," the doctor says.
Yep. Yep.
But then he's realizing through his therapy that, this is a manifestation of his stress, and this thing is going to attack people who get him upset. He doesn't want to murder. Duncan doesn't want anybody to get hurt.
It's literally his subconscious desires. So when somebody screws him over at work or damages him or embarrasses him or attacks him, he never consciously would say they should be, killed and pieces of them eaten. But that's what his heart wants, essentially, except it's not his heart, it's his butt. And Milo then leaves him, first without his knowledge of what's happening, and then later he knows what's happening.
Well,
and then Milo
those
comes
scenes
back up
where-
into his butt.
Where he realizes he has to let the thing go back up his butt. And there's that one scene where they show him from his legs, and you see the little guy crawling up in. It's just, you're not seeing anything from behind, but just, Ken.
It could be a lot more graphic.
Yeah,
let's
but
take a let's
he's
take a
doing a
pause.
great
Let's
job.
take a pause. Let's take a pause for a second because you are out of focus. Super 8 is in focus behind you.
Really?
More than you are. Just a little. Just a little.
How's that?
That's better. Yep, that's better. There you go.
Yeah, so they show that thing crawling up his butt. They don't show it, but you know, through the acting, fabulous acting from Ken Marino, you get the feeling that thing is going up his butt.
I'm a big fan of Ken Marino and the stuff that he's done, like Wet Hot American Summer and lots of other great shows and movies and stuff that he's done with the repertory, like all the people from basically from the state, the old MTV comedy sketch show.
Yeah, I'd never seen that.
Those people have, they've just been, Michael Ian Black, and these people have been working steadily for a long time doing all these great things. And this is also produced by the Duplass brothers, who are basically like mumblecore indie movie moguls, and they're interesting because they do a lot of different kinds of movies.
Yep.
So the Duplass brothers have done either writing, directing, starring in, producing, executive producing, all different genres, stuff like that. So to see their names come up on the screen is not shocking. This is not like most of their stuff, but they like smart, small scale.
Yeah,
type
well,
of
they
things.
produce.
And this is a very small movie because it's very personal.
And they also, one of them stars in a lot of mainstream stuff too. Mark Duplass. Which one is?
Yeah, Mark is the one who's in more in broader pictures and
so
TV
I saw
shows and
him
stuff,
in. He does all kinds of things, including that movie Creep, which I think he might have produced that one too.
Yeah, he's in Creep, which is basically a found footage, maybe serial killer
Creep
movie.
1, Creep 2, and then they produced that documentary about Sasquatch that's on Hulu.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they're well-rounded, and I was surprised when I saw their name on this because this is such an exploitive, fun. I say exploitive in the sense that something crawling out of your butt is pretty exploitive, but fun, and it's not gross. I mean, yeah, you see people get attacked. The worst attack is Tip, the doctor, which that's a very strange scene that you see him with a prostitute, but he's performing on her. He's doing oral on her in an alleyway. And then when he's done with her, he says, "My turn," and she just runs away. And that's when Bad Milo.
That's when Milo appears and uses his mouth.
And that was the most graphic, I think, attack out of all of them. That's where you actually saw a little,
Well, there's one scene in the movie that has a penis ripped off.
That's the scene.
That's that scene, and that's, I think, the most graphic scene. There's a lot of blood, and there's some poop, but you're not watching a lot of people like bleed. It's not super graphic like that. You're not watching anybody actually poop or anything. But
no, the poop is an outhouse.
If a murderous creature crawls in and out of a character's butt, there's going to be some of those things.
Yeah, but then they have.
I
all
personally
that whole
thought
scene.
when he's crawling up his butt with other people's blood, isn't that kind of unsanitary?
Yeah, well, that whole scene in the outhouse when he comes out and he's spun stuff on him, and then he's walking around with that shirt.
Let's talk about why he's in the outhouse.
Well, this gets to the point
at the outhouse.
Yeah, well, he has a
this
father.
This is the twist for you.
His father,
played by Stephen Root, who's an amazingly funny and
very funny
actor.
Plays his dad, who left Duncan when he was 8 years old, and this has definitely been in Duncan. This is part of why Duncan has been so stressed out. He just never understood why his dad walked out the way he did. And he's
dealing with that abandonment, and he's contemplating becoming a parent himself. And he says, because his father basically tells him, "You didn't need me. Your mom did everything. I was bad for you." And he says, "But I needed a dad. I needed my father." Where he's trying to become a father himself. So it's funny. It's all very relatable and very sort of real. Emotional concerns between these characters and that they have about each other and the boundaries and all these different things.
And again, I'm going to spoil.
Ass monster.
I'm going to spoil, but this is where the surprise of the film came in, because through the whole film, Duncan's trying to get his father to go to therapy, and Stephen Root's playing a completely off the grid, smoking dope all the time, complete, he's in his pajamas all the time, just a complete wreck. And Duncan can't understand why this guy is such a wreck, and how come he won't go to therapy and help him, and until Duncan comes home and his wife tells him he's pregnant. How did that happen? I don't know how that happened. He realizes
she's pregnant.
She's pregnant. I'm sorry, she's pregnant.
Yeah, Jillian Jacobs plays his wife.
His job has just been destroyed because his boss stole all this money, and they're going to blame him. The FBI's coming after him. So he's going to have a kid. He's going to probably be in jail, and all this stress pours out, and he leaves his wife. And there's that whole scene in the hotel where and Milo.
But he leaves, and he couches it as, I'm leaving to protect you. I'm leaving because I'm not good for you, which is exactly what his father did to him.
What his father did. So there's this little protracted scene of him and Milo in the hotel room watching movies together, and
vegging out. And
he's trying to feed him tuna fish. Milo doesn't want tuna fish. Milo wants meat. And then he finally gets his dad to therapy, and we find out the twist, which is Dad has a thing in his butt too, named Ralph. And there's that whole scene where the three of them look, Ralph, you named your thing Ralph? I don't know how they name these. I guess, because Duncan named his Milo.
I think it
and
just
then you
occurs
realize,
to you.
oh my God, it's in the genes. And his father left him to protect him.
Well, also, yes, the movie has a monster that comes out of his butt and kills people, but they do establish some rules about the relationship between them, and it becomes clear through the movie, like if you hurt Milo's arm, then Ken Marino winces, that kind of thing. But the therapist, Peter Stormare's character, explains that because Ken Marino's first inclination is, well, let's just kill it, let's just get rid of it. I don't want that up there. I don't know what this is. And he says, no, that's part of you. You have to face who you are. You have to face it more directly and in a more bloody fashion than most people have to face themselves. But generally, people have to face themselves, and that's what you end up doing in therapy. And he is told if you kill it, you will essentially be almost like you're lobotomized. You will be losing a part of yourself.
Right.
And that basically makes the movie about how do I live with this part of myself that's painful and challenging. In his case, that's actually a murderous monster. But I mean, that's completely 100% relatable. Anybody that has any kind of self-reflection or introspection or concerns about who they are and why they do what they do or what they'd like to do differently, this ass monster movie really is. I'm gonna say, I mean, it's amazing. A nice look at it.
It's amazing what you can pull out of a film. I mean, I am, and I know it's all right there. I get it. You're way more. You get layers of film that I could never even tap into. But it's there. I saw it there. I saw the metaphor. I did understand.
I go deep.
Metaphor.
I go deep up in there. Is what you're saying.
You really go deep up in there, and I understood the metaphor. And it's surprise. And then the only time that Duncan used Milo as a weapon was against his cheating boss, and that was probably the best. Obviously it was a cliche, whatever, because just before he unleashes Milo, the guy says, you should be able to take a crap on somebody and tell them you're the best. He just he opens it.
Well, he doesn't. It's funny because the way that I read that scene is not that he says, I'm gonna let Milo kill you because I think you deserve to die. He just says, I'm losing control. And, emotions are, to me, this is my personal thing. Emotions are essentially neutral, and it's what you do with them that matters.
See what you're doing.
So there's nothing innately good or bad about anger.
Did it again.
What?
You took a perfectly good revenge scene and you turned it into a lesson about therapy and handling your emotions. No, he just wanted that guy to get eaten.
It's not a lesson. It's not a lesson. He lets that creature, or he doesn't resist Milo doing what Milo does because he wants revenge.
Right.
But it's more about just feeling his feelings. I mean, there's nobody who watches this movie who would say that his boss getting that fate, there's not something deserved in what he gets. I mean, he's awful.
Right.
Patrick Warburton basically plays a sleazy Patrick Warburton character who's screwing him over and setting him up to be a patsy and all these things. And for him to be, slaughtered in an elevator, it didn't bother me.
Right.
It was fine. Oh, also, before I forget, Dr. Tip the fertility doctor, Steve Zissis, he's also the voice of Milo.
Yeah.
And for a monster that looks like basically anus skin and as rows of shark teeth and stuff, he's got a very endearing little squeaky voice when he's not shrieking.
Yeah.
And that was part of what really reminded me of Basket Case.
Yeah.
Because Basket Case, the main character's conjoined twin that was separated is a little fleshy monster, but has, I don't know, it's a puppet most of the movie. It has emotions and a personality and all that kind of stuff. And some part of you that's secret but very personal that jumps off of you and goes and
Well,
kills
again, these
people.
both kind of
that's
have that
clearly
same-
an heir to Basket Case there.
Yeah, well, it definitely is, and they
that's
theme
fine.
in Basket Case, the little creature went after his girlfriend because he was jealous of the girlfriend, and this
Right.
one Milo goes after the wife because he's jealous that he's going to have a baby.
And he
And-
ends up attacking her in
In the S&M,
Milo's mother's sex dungeon, where he fights her. She throws dildos at him, and
Yeah.
he fights her on a sex swing. A sex swing that, by the way, immediately falls off the ceiling.
Right.
When it has tiny little Jillian Jacobs and an ass puppet on it. So I don't know that was a really.
I just love that the mother says you can't go down there; it's too cluttered. And
Right.
she goes down and she looks around. Holy
Well, that
shit.
is, and again, the whole movie is about what you hide inside
Right.
yourself, inside your
Yeah.
secret places.
No, totally.
And it's,
I mean-
look, so the way that I thought about this movie, I wrote, I take notes and think about, this stuff when I'm watching these movies. And generally, I've watched them before, unless, you or Al has brought something else to the podcast. It's only 84 minutes, this movie.
Yeah.
And you could do a lot more with some of the ideas in this movie, but it's enough.
Yeah,
I don't
I
need
mean,
it to be longer.
What more
You know,
idea?
like you could.
I mean, the
you could
grossest
do-
scene in the film, the grossest scene in
Yeah.
the film was the dream
Yeah.
he had about his doctor.
Oh, the colonoscopy being attacked. Yeah, that's pretty upsetting.
That was an
pretty
awful
upsetting.
scene.
I mean, you could have done a lot more with the character of his father,
Yeah.
which
But, I
which
mean-
was funny because they set up a very dark ending, which
Yes.
makes sense. Which is his father, because basically Milo kills Ralph.
Right.
Ralph, his father's ass monster, not Ralph, the MovieStrange podcast
No, I'm still
YouTube
here.
show host. But well, you're still here now. I don't know when this will be
True.
published.
Good point.
But
Good point.
but his father is still there. His father's actually in his life. You see him at the end of the movie, and he is lobotomized, as the therapist said. His son is feeding him stuff, and then his father. The movie ends with a look on his face as he looks at Jillian Jacobs' pregnant belly, because the last scene of the movie is like 9 months later or something like that, and you kind of go inside of her belly the same way you've been going into colons and things, and you see a little baby monster. So the idea that it's going to continue, that this is a family thing, that it's going to continue. Again, I don't need a sequel. They're not going to make one.
No,
but it does. This little tiny story actually extends in both directions in a plausible way and relatable way, which is kind of cool, actually.
Well, I guess I don't understand. So they killed Ralph. Actually, Milo stabbed Ralph to death.
Milo stabbed Ralph. Yeah.
But
Ken Marino did not want that to happen.
No,
'Cause
but Duncan,
as he watched Milo kill Ralph, his father also, as
Right.
Milo,
He was
as
dying.
Ralph was stabbed, his father screamed in pain as well.
dying.
So.
But then Duncan goes and chops up Milo. Didn't kill
Well,
him.
because
Didn't kill him.
he's protecting
His wife.
because he's protecting his wife
I
and
understand.
his child.
I understand.
I mean, you see, Milo doesn't just attack Jillian Jacobs' character; he actually claws at her stomach.
He's going for the baby. Yeah.
He wants to kill the baby.
It's
So,
pretty,
like,
pretty
there's-
horrific.
Yeah.
But as Duncan is chopping his arm off, he falls down because his arm hurts. But ultimately,
Right.
Milo lived. Did Milo live? I'm kind of now you get me confused.
Well, at the end,
Oh, he crawls up his butt again. She puts
Milo
him up
is
his butt.
swaddled, and because listen, there's another movie that this reminded me of, and the movie that it reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, honestly, I may very well bring it to the show one day. It's a much more serious film, but it is in some ways about serious things. Did you ever see The Babadook,
Yes.
the Australian movie?
Fabulous
so
film.
that's a fantastic movie,
That's-
but it's
that
also
is-
about.
that is- yeah.
I mean,
That's
it's
a
about how people-
manifestation of grief. If I've ever seen a
Right.
film.
How do you
Right.
live? How do you live with grief? How do you
Right.
live with something that you can't get rid of?
Right.
And so the movie isn't about there's a monster in my ass, let's get rid of it. The movie is about there's a monster inside me that is part of me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether I like it or not. I need to learn to live with it. And I think what's the way that the movie decides is that you can learn to do that, because it shows a lot. There's a montage at the end, and Ken Marino is now at the therapist's office, and he's talking on the couch, and the therapist looks a little bored because there's no monsters crawling out of him or anything. But you can learn to live with things. You can learn to do these things.
See what you're doing. You're doing it
but
again.
the future is looming.
Yeah.
The future is looming.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed that in the credits they have a
Go ahead.
They have a filmmaker's wish to thank list, and David Cronenberg is on the list. So I thought that was appropriate.
Body horror. That's why.
A lot of body horror.
Because there's a lot of body. I mean, it's all implied, but still, that especially that scene at the end where she's like pushing him back up his butt. Yeah, you got another half inch to go. And he literally says, okay, I'll loosen up a little.
Yep. Because his wife's like, I don't see how this could possibly fit in there. And he's already, he doesn't even have all of his limbs and stuff.
Right.
But Ken Marino knows, all right.
Just under his breath, he goes, I'll loosen up a little.
Yeah. But he's like, I can, you don't understand yet, but it's okay. This is who I am.
Yeah. So, as a film.
Kind of sweet.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I liked it. It was as a horror film, definitely. Body horror. Comedy. Sure. It's one of those. It's kind of like I was thinking about it as we were talking. Another comedic horror film. Oh, I just lost it. I'm sorry. The Babysitter, which also has Ken Marino in there as the kid's father, and they play that kind of tongue in cheek as well with all the stuff going on in that. And I kind of like that. I like that kind of vibe. And to have the therapist played by Peter. It was fun. Yeah. Peter, usually that guy's always playing some nasty killer dick guy. And here he was playing kind of, at first you think he's kind of a blowhard, but then he's, like you said, he's at the birthday party at the end, smiling. He's, he's all happy. He gave him a knife as a gift, I think. I remember that. He gave him
something like that.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's why Peter Stormare is kind of he's such an intriguing actor. Like if you said Peter Stormare is going to play the devil in Constantine, you could picture some ways that he would play it. And what he does with that is actually a little more interesting and has more personality. No, then when you see it, you're like, well, only Peter Stormare would do this, and I dig it. And this is a movie that it doesn't have a lot of roles, but it has some familiar faces that are doing some really great work in it. And I think it's really fun and satifying. I agree. And it's funny, and it's about ass monsters. So.
I love that you can take a movie about ass monsters and explain what suppressing your feelings and how anxiety works. It's amazing. You are a genius, my friend.
I don't know that that's even remotely accurate. I think that's what the movie is about, and so if I can illuminate it in our discussions, that's fine.
I'm sure it is.
I'll take a compliment.
All I saw was an ass monster crawling out of this guy's ass, and
that's there too. I did. This is a movie. You're not the first person that I've said. As you're the first person I've done a show about this movie with, but you're not the first person that I've said, you got to see this movie. Next time you come over, let's watch this movie. And that's not just to anyone. Like there are people who I have friends that I have that I go, they don't want to sit through this.
Well, but
and
when
other
you
people I know, they're never going to have heard of it, but they're going to love it.
No, when you describe, I don't think you described it to me as an ass monster. It was the 4 words you gave me. That was my description. Yeah. And I don't think when you give me these, I don't go and immediately, because Al taught me this, don't read what you're about to watch, because you may not watch it. Because if I had read that 1313, if I had known what that was, I might have said, whoa, no, not doing it. I'm glad I didn't, because you opened you up to things that you would never be opened up to, like an ass monster going up your ass, right? But, not knowing that going in, I'm able to, just dive in and go for it and just be part of it. And the fact is, they did a real nice job not making it disgusting and gory. I don't mind seeing a penis getting chopped off on a guy. So that didn't, I'm sure there are people out there that would really bother. But, it is what it was. It's not
an inappropriate response to be bothered by that, but I understand what you're saying.
But I thought it was fantastic. And I'm a big fan of Ken Marino. Like I said, I saw him in Babysitter.
Oh, he's great.
I'm not familiar with The State and all that other stuff you mentioned, but definitely I like his vibe. I like his...
I can recommend a lot of excellent things that he's in from movies like Wet Hot American Summer. Yeah. I'm totally blanking on the name of the show. He did a TV show where he played a caterer, catering employees with a bunch of other familiar actors in I think it was a Showtime or Stars show. I'm blanking on the name. You can find a picture of it and throw it up when I'm not remembering.
I'm sure I've seen him.
He's just really funny. I
just didn't know who he was, and he was front and center in this one. So, and I thought he played it well. So, well done, my friend. Well done.
Let me say one last thing, because I know you like to learn things, and I learned something. I didn't really think about it when I first saw the movie. I don't even know how many times I've seen this, a bunch of times. But I said, his last name is Hayslip. Like, what is that? I don't know what the origin of that is. So I looked it up. It's from an Old English word and an Old Norse word, which means hazel. But it's also from the Old English word hop. And hop refers to, are you ready? A valley or hollow between two hills. So his name is a long heritage of butt. And I said, you know what? That's thoughtful writing. I like it.
Well, that,
like
again, that's digging in places that I don't even...
digging up in there. That's right.
Digging up in there. That's a good job. Crawling right up there. All right. Nice job. Now it's time for 2 movies, 4 words. Is that the one?
Yep, that's one of them.
Okay. So we got found foreign footage, folklore. Found footage, foreign folklore. Nuclear AI. That's AI, not Al, right?
That's correct. That's AI.
Nuclear AI before Skynet. You know what? I'm going to go for that one. Nuclear AI before
AI
Skynet.
before
Because
Skynet?
I know you're referring to Terminator, but I know that's not what this is. So,
Well,
what
what
is
you're
this?
going to watch, you'll throw a poster up because it's got really striking visuals right out of the poster. You're going to watch a movie that when you watch it, you'll go, how have I never... Like, how did any movie like the Terminator or any of this other stuff, it wouldn't have been made without this, but I'd never heard of it until I discovered it more recently. It stars Victor from All My Children, and it's called Colossus, the Forbin Project. And it's about a supercomputer that's developed to defend the country that may have other intentions. So there's lots of movies that come out of these ideas, like from war games to Terminator to all sorts of stuff about AI and our relations with that sort of stuff. And it's just it's a really cool movie that I figure you probably haven't heard of.
What's
That's
the name
also
again?
on a really
Colossus
nice Blu-ray.
what?
Colossus, the Forbin Project, and you won't have to look it up because you'll have a poster on the screen.
I might have it. I have it.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen it. I have it on Laserdisc.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That Laserdisc is almost as old as the movie. I think it's 74 or something.
That's amazing. All
So-
right. Good job. I'll
Good.
definitely look forward to spinning the LD on that one. So,
And I haven't watched it myself in a while, but as I am remembering, I think it's quite a different subject than today's episode, especially as far as like anal traumas and monsters
well,
and stuff. So
yeah.
just want to keep things going, different
things
stuff,
moving.
change it up.
well, that's good. That's good because I don't think I could do two of those ass movies in a row. So good job.
I could give you
and,
some, but I'm being polite.
I recognize the name, and I had to look in my little collection thing, and sure enough, I got it there. So that's great.
Funny.
All right. Good job, Drew.
Cool.
Keep the cult movies coming. Again, I'm cult curious. This guy is a cult. No, he's just a movie expert. Cult's just one of his many things he knows about, as well as therapy. And
I don't
some
know
of the
about
stuff we
I don't know
talked
about
about
an
tonight.
expert. I don't know about an expert, but
I'm going to say expert.
I like strange movies,
Yeah,
and
also.
you're interested in them, so I'll keep bringing them to you.
Yeah, keep on bringing them. All right. All right, sir.
All
Have
right,
a good
buddy.
week. Good luck
You
tomorrow
too.
with your new job.
Thank you. Good luck tomorrow with your second vaccination.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Big Wednesdays ahead.
Big Wednesday.